Hello, my Bar None Warriors. This is Chris, and this is Bar None 11970. And as always, thank you so much for hearing what I have to say. And I have an interesting situation I want to share with you guys. And of course, this is my opinion. So let's hope I'm wrong with it, but we'll see. Um, you could see here in the picture that I am showing, and love the pictures that they show, the images that they use for these two characters. Um, as you could see, they say, would you vote for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton? Now, first of all, I'm going to talk about really quick that your votes don't count. And if you want to know the full details, there's two videos that I have called The Truth of the United States Law and You. I hope you will watch those. They're a little long, but they will definitely help explain things, especially if you're new to this. But to give a brief little bit of that information, you are, when you get a driver's license, the first thing that you have to check is, are you a U.S. citizen? Now, they don't put a gun to your head, so they don't force you to do it. You do it on your own free will. Now, that means you're volunteering your servitude. If you look up the 13th Amendment, that's the legal definition for slavery. So the fact that they didn't put a gun to your head and make you check that box means you volunteered to do that. So if you understand the legal definition of the word citizen means you're a fictional character, a piece of property, a corporation, you have volunteered your servitude to say, yes, I am a slave, just not in the way they teach you in schools. Now, of course, even though you don't know the legal meaning of the word citizen, there's an old expression that says, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So they're assuming if you signed that voluntarily, you must have known what you were signing, even though they never teach you about it. That's the ironic part. So, every single person that goes to quote unquote vote, what's one of the first things you have to check when you go to register to vote? Well, are you a U.S. citizen? So they're asking you again. They're like, are you sure? And again, they don't put a gun to your head and say, you better check yes on that box. You do it voluntarily. So again, you've confirmed legally that you are volunteering your servitude, which negates the quote-unquote protection of the 13th Amendment, thus thereby making you a legal slave, according to the law, and your vote doesn't count. So what happens is, when you sign that you are a U.S. citizen, you actually leave the Americas as far as the country that you think this is, and you go to what's called the United States. Now, the word United States is a incorporated word. It is located in the District of Columbia, 10 square mile radius, that is owned by the Bank of London and the British Empire. So anybody that is a quote-unquote U.S. citizen is technically part of the British Crown. I would love to see either Donald Trump, Hillary, or anybody in politics actually mention that. There's a reason why they get paid very well. Now, if there are, let's say, 350 million registered voters that are quote-unquote U.S. citizens, let's say they all vote for Donald Trump. Well, because the votes are registered from where your jurisdiction is, which is the Washington, D.C. area, they only have 2 delegates. So even if 350 million U.S. citizens voted for Donald Trump, it comes out to be 2 votes. So if 3 people in the Senate voted for Hillary Clinton, well, 3 beats 2. There's your president. So now, I've noticed that a lot of people respond to the answer of this as yes. In other words, there's a lot of steam building up for Donald Trump. One of the things that people like about him is basically he can't be bought because he is already a multimillionaire. Because of the fact he's a multimillionaire, they can't bankrupt him out of the race, which pretty much goes to show that not just anybody can become president, because if you don't have millions of dollars to do campaigns, you're not in here. You always notice it's the people with lots of money and lots of funding. You never see some person that's, just got out of the ghetto somewhere becoming president. So much for equal opportunity. So, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know a few months back I made a video that was predicting who was going to be the next president based on comic books. Now, it's more than comic books, but I was just using that as the title. If you notice, there are a lot of very powerful feminine roles these days. Like, for example, the movie Ghostbusters is going to be all women. You see a lot of comic book movies where there's very strong comic book characters. It's on the TV show. Lots of TV shows where very powerful women are being displayed. Um, they're getting the attention of people. That's how you program them, by showing them entertainment, so they just think of it as movies and TV shows and comic books, but it's getting you used to the fact of a strong female lead. someone in power, which is why I predicted months ago that they would pick Hillary Clinton. Now, as you could see, that more and more people are really putting a buzz up for Donald Trump. Now, do I agree with him? No, I think he's just entertainment. And I think that's what they took him for a while, but he's been gaining steam from the majority of people. Even Democrats are starting to agree with him. Not because they think he's the best choice, but it's kind of the lesser of two evils kind of thing. And I guess people like the fact that he's not your typical politician. Now, my opinion is he will never become president because he's not part of the quote-unquote family. If you do some research, there was a young girl who a couple years ago had a school report where they had to do family trees. Now, this particular girl, and I don't remember her name, and I don't have any links. If anybody knows this, please post the link. But she was adopted, so she didn't have any family, didn't know who gave her up for adoption. So she decided to do a family tree on the presidents. And what she discovered is every single president, from the President Obama that we have today down to George Washington, every single one of them, I think except for one or two, have been related to one another in one way, shape, or form, either through cousins, second cousins. They're all related, which is either one heck of a coincidence that basically 98, 99% of our presidents are all related, or that kind of leads a little bit more credence to the fact that I talk about that presidents are not elected, they are selected as being part of a wealthy background family. So with that being said, I made a prediction that Hillary Clinton would become president. But again, because Donald Trump is gaining steam, if everybody's talking about Donald Trump and everybody is starting to dislike Hillary Clinton, well, if all of a sudden she became president, people might question that. And if you know anything about governments throughout history, they don't like it when people question things. They kind of like it when you just follow suit, when you do what you're told and follow the programming. So here's what I think may happen. Now, obviously, I have no inside information. I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is just my opinion based on my experience of watching throughout history what governments love to do. What you take of it is up to you. But again, it's just my opinion. I think there's going to be, probably within a week or two, somewhere around when you're supposed to quote unquote vote, because your votes don't count. I mean, if you want to believe that, that's fine, but I've already explained it and watched those other videos. Probably a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of days, maybe even right before, who knows? Like I said, I don't have any inside information or anything, that some kind of quote unquote tragic event is going to happen. Now, if you know anything about what happened back in 9/11, and we won't go into that particular lie in this video, but the mayor of New York, his term was over. But because of the quote-unquote events that happened in 9/11, the official story, he continued to be mayor. So in other words, he went past his term. So because Hillary Clinton is part of that family, and she's not gaining lots and lots of fans, and more people are saying, well, at least Trump is the better of the options, they're not going to let Donald Trump become president. So, if some kind of quote-unquote tragic event were to just happen to occur right before voting, the president, our current president, Obama, can make an executive order to continue being in the office of president. So if there was some quote-unquote terrorist attack or some natural quote-unquote disaster that just happened to happen beforehand, well, he could step in and say, well, due to this quote-unquote situation, I'm going to have to continue being president. So my predictions are either they're just going to make Hillary Clinton president anyway, or some kind of unfortunate situation may occur where Obama will have to step in and continue his reign of torment. Now, I don't say that because I have a problem with that particular president. Every president does it. The last president that actually tried to do anything was John F. Kennedy, and we all know what happened to him. Because of the fact he didn't want to be in Vietnam, because of the fact he vetoed Operation Paperclip, I believe. No, I'm sorry, Operation Northwoods. If you don't know what Operation Northwoods is, I highly recommend you Google it. It's declassified information, so it's not just some quote-unquote conspiracy theory, but you'll notice Operation Northwoods was very similar to what happened at 9/11. Only that happened back in the was going to happen in the 1960s, but John F. K. voted it down. He also created Executive Order 11110. That's another thing that's a declassified document, so people are not making this up. You can look it up. It's declassified, where John F. Kennedy, instead of us borrowing money from a foreign bank known as the Federal Reserve, well, he wanted our own country to make our own money, which would mean the taxpayers would have a lot less tax burden because we wouldn't be paying interest on loans that we borrow from a foreign bank known as the Federal Reserve. And if that's the first time you've ever heard that, because Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, or anyone in politics, they don't like to talk about the Federal Reserve in any bad light and say, oh, by the way, it's owned by the very bank shareholders that we bailed out back in 2008. Thanks, Obama. But again, that's not his idea. He's just a puppet, because kings run countries, presidents run corporations. So my prediction is either going to be Hillary Clinton is going to end up being president anyway, and they'll make some excuse, say, oh, it was a close race. Even if everybody voted for Donald Trump, they could pick whoever they want, because I've already given the example of why. Or there's going to be some kind of situation that just happens to coincidentally occur right before voting. So if something tragic, and I hope it doesn't, I'm not one of those doom and gloom kind of people. I don't want to wish any bad situations, because when that happens, you know there are going to be innocent people potentially injured or hurt. I don't like that. But if some kind of tragic event happens beforehand, does that absolutely mean they did it on purpose? No, I can't say that that is. It could be just a coincidence where something did happen. But it would be quite suspicious, especially if people are telling you in advance that that particular thing could be a possibility. Now, of course, and I'll say this until I'm blue in the face, I have no connections. I'm not saying I know anything. I wish, because you guys know if I did, I would say it. But knowing how governments work throughout history, you could just look time and time again. They love either creating distractions or taking advantage of ones that just happen to happen. Never let a good situation go to waste. So Donald Trump, I hate to tell people that find him the lesser of two evils. He will never be president, in my opinion. If he does, that's one heck of a miracle. He would be harder to be bought. And if all of a sudden something bad happened to him, which I hope doesn't happen, that might get people's attention. So let's see what you guys think. I want you guys to leave a comment in the comment section. Let's see what you have to say. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion, so I could be wrong, but if anything, we all have the right to make them. So if you want to support by sharing this, by thumbing it up, by subscribing, I would love to have you part of the channel, and I'll love to hear your thoughts. So hopefully I'm wrong with that, but keep an eye out. And like I said, if it's anything's going to happen, I would say within 2 weeks before the votes happen, the quote-unquote votes, probably closer to that, because they want to make sure it's fresh in your mind and have a good reason why the president may have to step in. But we'll see. So hopefully it doesn't, but time will tell. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Have a great weekend.